Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Hey guys, hey girls. How are you? We hope you had a great holiday, Thanksgiving, eating, gobble, gobble, all that good stuff, and probably ready to do some running. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to do some running around, some walking heavy or something. I don't know. Knowing my co-host, Rochelle, she's probably already been in the gym 5 times by now, right, Rochelle? Rochelle, she knows I'm telling the truth. Rochelle, you know I'm telling the truth. You know I am, right?
Yes.
But for everybody else, welcome back to the Real Talk Show. And we are so happy that you are here with us today. If this is your first time, welcome. If this is you coming back again, welcome. We were just glad that you're a part of the family. Real Talk is a live stream podcast, a safe space for women to come together and just have real talk about what's going on in the world, being able to motivate and support and unite women all together all over about different issues and challenges, and just have really great open conversations. So we are happy to have you with us today. I am Dr. Kim Brown Barber, better known as Dr. Kim, with Journey to Becoming. And my co-host is...
I'm Rochelle Marie Lawson, known as the Queen of Feeling Fabulous and owner and founder of Blissful Living for You.
Yes, all right. And we have some great panelists with us today who I will let them introduce themselves before we get into the topic. Tanisha.
I'm Tanisha Ross. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I'm a board-certified music therapist.
Yay, all right. The music therapist. Okay. All right, Marfrey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marfrey Hernandez, and I'm from Queens, New York. And I'm currently a founder of a startup for a multiverse multimedia social website.
All right. I love it. Entrepreneurs everywhere. This is wonderful. All right. So I want to get started because this is a great conversation. A lot of people have been dealing with some of this, and that's why I kind of came on my radar about just caregivers, right? And I will say the lack of respect for caregivers or appreciation, maybe, but dealing with caregivers. And so when we talk about caregivers, we're talking about the caregivers who are not the employed caregivers, like the nurses and all that, but the caregivers that we're seeing more and more of in our society. And matter of fact, I think the Caregivers Association, they showed that 75% of all caregivers, in the family, friends, that type of thing, are women. 75% of the caregivers are women. And they spend more than 50% of their time more than men in doing this. So this is just some stats that came from them it made sense. I kind of figured that's what it was, but it made sense after looking at it and seeing the stats on it and being able to have conversations about what that means. And I think it's a good and a very important topic because so many of us, if you have been a caregiver or if you haven't been one, or maybe you will be one, you just never know. It's a conversation that people are needing to have. So first thing I want to ask, my first question is, how do you define the caregiver? Who is that caregiver and why? Like, it's different ways you can describe them. How do you define caregiver? And who kind of fits into that category for you in your perspective? Let's start with you, Marfrey.
Okay. So a caregiver for me is someone who, within the two words, cares about you and gives you a lot of their time. And I'm really of wordplay. And sometimes people see it as just one word, but those two words really go together into the act that they do.
Man, that's good. That's good. I like that. How about you, Tanisha?
I would have to agree with Marfrey. Like, you can be a caregiver not just as a nurse or whatever, but a family member. A mother is a caregiver. A father ought to be a caregiver. Even though sometimes we don't think of that role. Like you said, we kind of tend to lean towards, that's women's work or whatever. I've even seen kids being caregivers, right? People who give of themselves and want to help others. And sometimes they make that a profession. Sometimes it's just who they naturally are. My best friend just likes to give everything to everyone at all times.
Wow. Yeah. One of those.
Like, here's the shirt off my back.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Wow. Yeah, exactly. You're right. I definitely see that. And, a lot of people, like you said, it's caregivers are many different forms, right? It's not just one format. So what about you, Rochelle, Queen of Feeling Fabulous?
Well, caregiver, me being a caregiver, but I think a caregiver is anyone that takes care of someone else when they not necessarily can take care of themselves in the most beneficial way. So it could be a child taking care of another child, a sibling taking care of a younger sibling. It can be a sibling taking a child taking care of a parent. It can be another parent taking care of a parent. It can be another adult taking care of someone outside of their family. So there's not one per se definition of what a true caregiver is, but it's anyone that takes time out of their day and their life to give care to someone else that can't necessarily provide for themselves in that capacity. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. And everybody is basically on that same consensus of, it could be anybody. It can look very different. It can be a child. It can be, somebody older. It can be somebody younger. It can be a male. It can be a female. It just has all different types of descriptions, right? And so, in this that we do, like those of us who've either been a caregiver or if you out there have been a caregiver, we know what we went through, and everybody's journey and experience is different, as a caregiver, who you're taking care of, who you are, how you respond. And there's a certain amount of stress that goes with that, if you can be able to see, even with this association that they have, this nationally to give support to caregivers, even talks about the stress, right? So much so that they even gave a Bill of Rights for caregivers to read every day so that they can be able to get through it. And I'm gonna share that with you guys a little later. But right now, I want to hear from you as to how, if you've been a caregiver, did you handle the stress of being a caregiver? Or if you haven't been a caregiver, how would you anticipate that you would handle it? Or if you know somebody, how did they handle it? Rochelle, let's start with you.
So, first of all, I think we have to define for the listeners exactly what stress is when it comes to caregiving or giving care for someone else. It depends on the situation, whether if it's a family or a sibling or someone you don't have a relationship, you don't have a interpersonal relate. They're not a family member, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Because I've seen it in all capacities, and I think sometimes with caregivers that are uh, in the family, the stress for them is when they're trying to care for someone who doesn't really want to improve things for themselves or even take that initiative to try to do things better. It can be very stressful when you are caring for someone, say a parent, and you know what your parent used to be able to do. And now either they don't want to do it or they can't do it. And you can't, as a non professional healthcare person, you can't tie the two together, right? So you can become very frustrated and that can stress you out. The other thing I see or I have seen is when you are a person that, say, I'm going to say, give an example. My aunt lived in a community where all her neighbors were older than her. And so she was hired out by their families to, come check on them, take them to the doctors, make sure they're okay, that kind of stuff. And when you see things happening in the realm of relationships between family members and how they're caring for that individual, and you're the outside quote caregiver, that can be stressful when you see inappropriate things happening and you don't actually know what to do. So there's a lot of different types of stresses that come with being a caregiver, a non-professional quote unquote caregiver. And I think it just depends on the circumstance and the situation that an individual is in, they whether they feel they have the capacity to act forward and do the best for that person that they can, or if they're under some type of restraints and that causes additional stress internally within them, but they may not even know the two are related. So that's what I would say.
Okay. All right. And Tanisha, what are your thoughts of how would you handle the stress, of being a caregiver if you're one, or if you know someone who has been there, and how they handled the stress?
Yeah. I've found that caregivers tend to not give themselves care, and they don't seek out care, and that is really, really important. Um, Seeking counseling if I think everybody needs a therapist, but that's
Spoken as a therapist, no bias.
Pick whatever therapy
It's
you
all
want.
good.
Everybody has, so I have a therapist, and I lean on my teammates. We do peer supervision where we, sometimes there's days that are really hard and you need someone to like vent to, that is a safe space. And it's not always appropriate for me to come home and tell my husband what's going on at work. Right. So I can tell my teammates, and we have a space where we meet specifically for that. I do a lot of yoga and meditating, so taking in that self-care and giving to myself, finding places, ways to find ways to give to yourself. And I think another tool that I use is when I'm caregiving, I actually imagine in my heart that I have a little room that I've made just for myself. So the rest of my heart I can give to everybody else, but I make a little tiny version of me and I put it in that room when I go to caregive, because I need to hold on to a piece of myself. I'm sorry, my cat is my attention. Caregiving, would you feed me
Pick
now?
up that baby and give that baby some caregiving.
I love it. I love it. That's one thing about the Real Talk Show. We are real, aren't we, Rochelle?
that cat was I don't know that baby's name, but she was like, I need some care right now. Can you pick me up?
Yeah, you're talking about caregiving. You can get some care right now. Oh my goodness.
Y'all.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's what I love about Real Talk. You just never know how it's gonna go, right? And we go with it. We go with it.
So yeah, just having that little space in my heart that I hold on to myself, so that I keep a little piece of myself for me.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. And I think that's important because you're right. A lot of caregivers, I've been one myself. We don't we don't take time to take care of ourselves because sometimes it's so demanding and it's so focused on that loved one and wanting them to get better, wanting them to come out of it, on this side and to be healed, that or to just be better, right? Quality of life. And that you forget, like, oh my goodness, I do need to take time to do XYZ. And I love it because one of the Bill of Rights that they have, it says to take care. The first thing in the Bill of Rights for caregivers they have is I have the right to take care of myself. This is not an act of selfishness. It will give me the capacity to take better care of my relative. And that's like the first thing that's on there. And I just thought that was awesome. So what about you, Marfrey?
Well, from the beginning that you told me the topic, I thought right away about therapy, because I know some people that have been caregivers and don't forget to caregive to themselves. that gets kind of toxic, because then the energy that you're giving off isn't very genuine all the time, and then you lose yourself in it. So I also wanted to mention, like you said, that caregiving isn't only like a job. It's also sometimes like I'm a daughter of an immigrant mother from Dominican Republic, and through education and everything else, I don't live in survival mode anymore. And because I work from home, I realized, wait a minute, I'm caregiving a little too much, Mom. Hold up. So dependent on me, and then we recently, like I set some boundaries, right?
Oh yeah.
Have to introduce some words, and even that is like little sass.
Yeah.
Don't take it personal, have to, that little room. I love that vision, that visual that you gave about that little room. I loved it. Definitely wrote it down.
Yeah.
But it's important to create those spaces, and it didn't last forever. Like, she was a little upset at first, but then I realized, thank you, God. Like, I'm caregiving to myself now, because we have to set boundaries as well. So as caregivers, boundaries are very important.
You know what? You're absolutely right, and that's part of taking care of yourself, right? Like you said, the little room. Like I love that, Tanisha. But you're right. The boundaries. That was part of the Bill of Rights that they had too, as they said, to main facets of my own life, that do not include the person I care for, just as I would if he or she were healthy. I know that I do everything that I reasonably can do for this person, and I have the right to do some things for myself.
Mhm.
And like, you guys are hitting all of it. Like you're hitting all of it. It's like you guys are hitting the Bill of Rights going right down the line, I tell you.
Yeah.
And it's important.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if we don't find the time to care for ourselves, and like Murphy said, we go into that toxic space, then we actually might potentially do harm.
That's right.
And that's not good, right? We don't want
That's
to harm
right.
our loved ones. We don't want to harm the people that we're supposed to be
No.
caring for. But
Mm-mm.
if we're not caring for ourselves, then we get blinded by that stress that Rochelle was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can't be effective, and we actually can, not be our best selves.
Exactly. All right. So next question. Do you think caregivers are respected and appreciated? If so, how? If not, why do you think it is so? And how can we change that? So, do you think caregivers are respected and appreciated? If so, how? But if not, why do you think that is so? And how can we change it? Let's start with you, Tanisha.
I don't want to say a blanket statement.
Right.
However, just the main one I think about is compensation. It drives me crazy that somebody who is caring for someone, and it's such a difficult job, it just they're not compensated well if it's something that they're doing for money, right? And but yet we can spend all this money on basketball players and baseball players and movie stars and yada yada yada. But these are people who are sometimes having multiple jobs if it's something that they're doing for a family member, right? That is a full-time job on top of your full-time job, on top of your other full-time job, right? And so just the assistance, and whether that is compensation in whether it's money or whether it's other things that can assist you in maybe medical equipment that you might need, or things like that. And then I think that words are nice. Like people are like, oh yeah, good for you. You do such a good job. How but it's not enough, right? Like, I think that if you have somebody in your life that's a caregiver, if you're not paying them, pay them in another way. Get them a massage. Buy them a massage. Pay for them to get their nails done. Something, do an act of service for them.
Okay, I love it. All right, Marfrey.
Well, we have a cookie day, so I think we could definitely have a caregiver day.
All right now.
That's the
Okay, Rochelle, drop the mic. Drop the mic, Rochelle.
I'm just saying.
We have this thing on the Real Talk Show where we drop the mic. We are still looking for that. We're going to get it by the time the year. That's going to be our anniversary, our 1 year anniversary. So we're going to have a real mic starting for our 1 year anniversary.
Right.
But I'm telling you, that's good. You said they got a cookie day, so they ought to have a caregiver.
Yeah. And I say that because I've met caregivers who unfortunately, because life happens, they turn to alcoholism, and these are people that have good hearts, but they can't afford therapy. They can't talk to other people what's happening, so they get another friend. You know what I mean? So even the slight thing, if they go through social media, because we know how the dopamine and all that works, if I'm a caregiver and I'm looking, it's caregiver day, oh my gosh, it's a little exciting to know that the world sees you.
I love that. So whoever's listening and wherever we need to make this happen, let's make a Caregivers Day, right?
On the
and
calendar.
they heard it first here on the Real Talk Show. So there you go. I love that. How about you, Rochelle?
I think with regards to just actually respecting the caregivers that come in, when I was in clinical practice, it was interesting because I always knew that these people really knew the real truth behind what you were asking the patient versus what the patient was telling you. And so I think a lot of times that caregivers get discounted with regards to what they have to say or what they have to share within the medical community itself, whether it's the physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, um, physician's assistants. I think there needs to be more credence given to listening to these caregivers because they actually know the scoop and they will tell you the truth. Sometimes a patient will tell you what you want to hear, which is not necessarily the truth. But if you want the truth, you need to rely or include that caregiver into the dialogue of treating the patient, so that you get the overall aspect of what's really going on, not from just the patient, but from what the caregiver has witnessed, whether it's from family stuff or their social interactions or lack of or too much or whatever it can be with regards to caregiving. I think it's really important that we give more credence to those that come in with the patients. I've had people come in, um, that were caregivers, and basically they're just there to kind of help and guide. The patient was pretty, pretty coherent and all that stuff, but they're just kind of help to guide and assist. But I remember a physician asking a patient, was she having difficulty, getting in and getting up and down, and she said, oh no, I'm not having a difficulty. And the lady looked at her like, and I said, well, is she? She said, well, yeah, she has problems, doing this. She has problems doing that. And the patient actually looked at the caregiver and said, I told you not to say nothing. But it was information that needed to be addressed and needed to be known because this patient was having neurological issues that was beyond the little, slips and falls. And so I think just giving more credence and listening to the caregivers and including them in the concept of the whole patient care is essential moving forward. And I agree, some of these people are not paid very well, but I do know there's money out there for them to get paid. It just depends on the circumstances and the situations and what they're doing, whether they're doing privately or through an agency or something like that. So I think we do really need to treat our caregivers with a lot more respect, dignity, and credence when it comes to just the role that they play in that patient or that person's life.
All right. Yeah. I definitely can see that. And I'm sure we've seen that many times happen, especially for you being in the health profession, that you've seen it from your angle. So I can definitely see that. Now, for the profession, for the person who is a caregiver who's not the professional, right? And when we think of them, do you feel that they are allowed to get angry, depressed, frustrated, hurt? And if so, I mean, like everybody handles those things differently, right? So, because in some cases, with caregivers, that's why one of the things that they showed in the research is that a lot of caregivers, not the professional ones, but the ones who are doing it, not getting paid, taking care of family members, um, felt guilty, um, even feeling angry. Because I think, Tanisha, you were talking about earlier how sometimes you just got to go and talk to some other people and trying to get things out. But how would you suggest for caregivers who are not professional to handle the situations when they start to feel angry or they start to feel depressed or guilty? Because matter of fact, they've actually named that as one of the what they call silent. What do they call it? They say that one of the most silent issues that are coming up now are caregivers getting depressed but not speaking about it. And so that's something that's like on a rise. And they've been seeing it more and more that people, that's why they've been getting FMLA, people get that so they can be able to go and take care of their families. We have a lot of that going on. And it could be a daughter, it could be a parent, it could be whatever, a friend, whatever, but they're seeing that. So how would you suggest when people are handling those type of emotions? Start with you, Marfrey.
Well, when it's a family thing, right? If you can possibly tag in another family member and say, hey, can I get at least an hour or two? Because being outside and just getting in some sunlight or walk can make a world of a difference than being indoors the entire 24 hours, who knows how long at a time, and not getting a break. So
Mm-hmm.
similar again to what Tanisha said about that room. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very important for caregivers to know you need to create that room, because then caregivers create this attachment as well. Like that's another side of it too. Caregivers
That's
end up
true.
caring over than what they're expected to. And they need to know, hey, you're a human, you matter. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. Right. I love it. All right, Rochelle.
Um, I would say, again, I love the going and taking a walk. That going out for just a walk in nature helps to restore and ground you back into things. You can release things. Even it doesn't have to be a long walk. It could be 5 minutes or it can be 55 minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
just taking a step away from the actual act of caregiving for that family member, friend, or whoever can help just rebalance and reground some of the energy that builds up from just taking care of people. It's also the whole mental health aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
If something's going on, by George, find someone you can talk
Mm-hmm.
to get it
Mm-hmm.
out, because if you do not get it out, it will ruminate in your mind, and what is in your mind will manifest in your body. And no one wants to be a caregiver that has to actually end up needing care themselves, because
Mm-hmm.
it addresses
Mm-hmm.
stress and things from the mental health issues. So, find someone to talk to. Heck, if you can't find somebody to talk to, we got smartphones. Just talk to your phone like you're talking to somebody, but out of you, because
Right.
that sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you have to get it out of you, because if you don't get it out of you, it's like this underlying ruminating volcano that eventually is going to explode, and you're going to take that depression, that anger, that stress, that whatever it is, negative emotion out on somebody. It could be the dog, the cat, your kids, your man,
That's
your
true.
wife, your wife, whatever. But you're going to eventually co-work, you're going to eventually take it out on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So doing things like a simple walk, finding somebody
Mm-hmm.
that you can talk to that just will just listen. Don't give advice, just listen to me talk, girl. Just let me get this out.
Right.
Or just using
I'm
that phone
venting.
and
I'm
just
just
talking
venting.
to the phone like you really having a conversation. You
Exactly.
might want to do that in the closet or something so people don't think you're crazy, but you got to get it out of you. I think that's one of the most important things. When we hold things in, it's just so not good for our mind and our body. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
I
part of
love that.
yourself first and taking care of yourself first so that you can be the best that you can be for those that you love and care about.
I love that. I love that. Just talking like, and the fact that she just said talking to your phone, right? Like she said, because that way people don't think you're crazy. At least you'll be sitting up there like, yeah. And I don't know why you thought that. They think you having a serious, knockdown, drag out, fight on the phone, and meanwhile you just,
You're just
getting it up.
venting.
I
Yeah.
love it,
I mean,
Rochelle.
and
I
no
love
one's
it.
gonna know you're not talking to anybody if you don't tell them nothing.
That's right. That's right. I
Sometimes you
love
see
it. I
people
love
walking
it.
around with
Yes.
the AirPods on and they talking. You be like, "Excuse me," and they're not even talking to you. Okay, so in this day and age, no one's gonna think you crazy if
That's
you
right.
talking.
That's right. That's right. I love it. I love it. So from now on, like if you guys see me and y'all see me doing that, just don't even give my secret away, okay? Don't even give my secret away. All right, Tanisha, talk to us. I tell you, my time has slipped from me already. Tanisha,
I know.
give me what I need, and then we're gonna have Rochelle take us out. I tell you, wow.
So sometimes people who are caregivers, there's that guilt. Sometimes there's codependency. Sometimes they don't feel like there's anybody they can talk to. There might be, if not a family member, that they feel like that they can talk to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So another option would be journaling,
Mm.
right? To journal how you're feeling. There's even a thing called dialoguing with a symptom. So what's my symptom? It's anger. I want to dialogue with anger. Dear anger, and whatever it is, dear sadness, dear, and think about how you feel and dialogue with that.
I like that.
Or like the phone, right, has also these like videos, so these audio audio files that you can like. If you're not a writer, record it. And that's something you can delete later if you want. If you're afraid someone's going to read your diary.
Right.
Also, and I'm not sure if there is one, but if there's a crisis hotline or like there needs to be
Mm-hmm.
crisis hotline for caregivers, right? Or just a place.
Yeah.
It's
You're
not always
right.
it's not always so easy for your friends to not give you advice and not want to help you,
Solve the
right?
problem.
And so it's nice if you can have a third party who is literally just there to listen and
Mm-hmm.
get it out. But then also get help if you really are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
That's
the
right.
more awareness that we have around this issue, the more we talk about the issue, the more we can hopefully empower caregivers to share their stories and to come out of those shells and to feel like, oh, I don't have to go inside and feel guilty and have all these feelings. There's other people who feel this way, and we can bring awareness around that too.
That's right. And I appreciate you saying that, because all the things we're giving you are different, suggestions of what you can do when you're not to that point where you need that professional help of a therapist. You have to know when it's time for you to go to that point. But prior to, while you are self-caring, this is part of the self-care that we all are talking about. Journaling, talking to the phone, all of the pieces, going for walks, all of that. This is part of the self-care that you should be doing ongoing. And you were talking about a hotline. I'm not sure whether they have a hotline, but they have a caregivers online support group, Family Caregiver Alliance. That's Family Caregiver Alliance. If you go online, look that up. They have all sorts of support groups and resources for caregivers. This is going to be something really good for you to do. I actually gave it out to somebody today. I saw them really struggling, and they were like, "Thank you so much for giving me that information, because it really helped them today." So we have to get ready to get out of here. I see that you're giving some care to the little kitty right now. Finally, right? Your cat is like, finally, right? So let's give some encouragement. Give me 2 words that you would say to caregivers to encourage them. 2 words, because we got to get out of here. 2 words, Marfrey.
Stay blessed.
All right. Tanisha.
Thank you.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. Rochelle, take us out.
You are appreciated, and I just want you to know that we all here think that caregivers are phenomenal, whether it's professional or non-professional capacity. You're appreciated. We bless you. We thank you, and follow up with the information that Dr. Kim shared, where you can get some online support if you're struggling or having issues or just need somebody to talk to. And just know there is respite. You can get respite care. So you can arrange to have someone come in for an hour a week so you can take a break or whatever it is to help you so that you're not so overwhelmed with caring for the person that you're caring for. So I guess that's it, Dr. Kim. I just want to say thank you, ladies, for being with us. And we appreciate your wisdom and the words you shared with those that are listening. I know they're meaningful and have touched the heart and soul of so many people that will hear the show that are particularly caregivers. So thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. And Dr. Kim, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Marfrey and Tanisha, for being with us here on the Real Talk Show. If you love what you heard and you want to hear some more, subscribe. We have so many more conversations going on. And if you missed some, you can go back and hear some. Okay. And we also are on live on the Radio Lex 93.9 FM. And you can stream it as well. And so just know that you can catch the Real Talk Show. Look us up. We are there. And we are glad that you came in and worked and were able to just be a part of this conversation tonight, or wherever you are tonight, this morning, wherever you are. We're glad that you are part of our community. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.